What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and this one I'm going to talk about the overall market and keep this video very brief as I break down something very important going on for tomorrow. I'm also going to talk about how earnings have been so far at the time I'm recording this for Microsoft and Google, what you should be watching for going into tomorrow. Before I break anything down about all this information, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon, in just about 8 days, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Anyways, look at the market. We had a very interesting day. We saw SPY just continuing to pump all the way up to 456.74, then get this rejection at the very end of the day. And I warned you guys that sometimes we see the market like slow down at the very end. Sometimes you have to be very careful. And that is what happened because this was the last close before FOMC. So big earnings came out, as I've been talking about, right? We have Microsoft and Alphabet. I don't really have time to talk about Microsoft's guidance. We're still waiting for that, unfortunately. I am sorry about that. I'm not going to be available a little bit after this, but I have been giving you guys updates throughout the day, and I just want to talk about how the earnings are looking so far. So far, Microsoft did very well, actually. Now, some sectors slowed down a little bit, but they beat on EPS, they beat on revenue, and overall, we have some very, very nice looking projections for the future. We just need more confirmation from their guidance to see how strong it's going to be, and guidance is going to be everything for them. For Alphabet, aka Google, so far so good. We actually saw much stronger than expected quarterly results from them, driven by growth in their cloud services. So very good for them. We can see Sundar Pichai right over here. He's going to announce some very, very big things too moving forward. And it's looking pretty good for them. I mean, we saw them beat on revenue, very, very strong revenue, if anything, and EPS was quite good too. And you can see right here, YouTube ads were up, Google Cloud was beat, and traffic acquisition costs were a little bit higher than expected. Besides that, most things have been quite good for them. You can see the share price is up quite nicely in the after hours. Looking at Google, where is it right here? I think it was looking quite good the last time I checked it, and it was up. If anything, it's currently up about almost 7%. We're still waiting for guidance. Guidance should be quite good for them, but the bigger one's going to be Microsoft because after earnings came out, they actually beat. Microsoft actually beat on EPS and revenue. They did relatively well, but they are a tiny bit down, but does not matter that much. We're just waiting for their guidance, waiting for some big announcements about the future, and we're going to see what they say about their AI services. In my opinion, it's going to be very optimistic, so there's a good chance this thing could bounce, but just to be safe, we have to wait and see. Now, if both of these companies do bounce later on over the next few hours going into tomorrow, this could help the stock market hold up in the very beginning. Market may pump a little bit more, continue to hold up. And what I would be anticipating is this for SPY. Basically, whichever direction Google and Alphabet take us will determine how the market moves, not to mention the earnings coming out tomorrow morning, like AT&T, Coca-Cola, and the list goes on. So the odds do favor maybe the market holding up a little bit longer. Trying to hold up in the beginning, maybe we get like either a pop, and then the market just starts trading sideways after that. If we get bad earnings tomorrow morning, let's just say guidance is bad hypothetically, although this is unlikely for both Google and Microsoft, the market could slow down a bit and then start shopping. It's going to be one of those two. I'm anticipating very choppy price action after the big move for the first hour, like I said earlier. We're going to see a reaction to earnings, and expect very boring price action tomorrow. Very sideways price action for the first couple of hours. All right, expect that. It's not going to be fun to trade most tickers. It's going to most likely be boring. That's what's almost always happened during these FOMC meetings. But then, like I said before, at 2 o'clock p.m., we have the interest rate hike decision coming out. So this is going to make the headlines, what the rate hike is going to be. And then at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, this is New York time I'm talking about, we have the conference when Jerome Powell is going to be speaking. Expect more volatility. And that's going to be the much bigger move. So whatever we see in the morning is going to be nothing compared to what happens when Powell speaks. If Powell pumps the markets, although I am leaning a little bit less in this direction, but let's just say hypothetically he does somehow pump the markets. I'm not really expecting it, but if he did, we could see SPY go all the way up to 458 to 460. Not really counting on that though. If Powell rug pulls the markets, we're going to be watching SPY come all the way down to 452 or even down to like 450 or so. Both of them are possible. I am leaning a little bit more bearish because I know Powell may try to rug pull the markets, be hawkish, talk about inflation, the rate hikes, as he was for the last couple of days. And don't forget the last times he spoke, and by last couple of days, I mean, I meant the last times he spoke. He did not speak like a few days ago. The last times he spoke, like over the last couple of weeks, he was being quite hawkish, and he was just once again reiterating the Fed's need to raise rates even more and just things like that. So there's a good increased probability of him doing that again. So the odds do favor downside after Powell starts speaking, after Powell is done with tomorrow later on. But in the morning, the market should hold up, in my opinion. That's what I'm thinking. But just to be safe, we will see what happens with earnings and other factors. I'm just going to go over a couple of them. If we get a pump tomorrow off Powell, Tesla could go all the way up to like 275 plus. If we get a rug pull, we're going to see Tesla come all the way back down to 255 or lower, at least to like the 258 area or lower, in my opinion. And I do think the odds favor downside, but just to be safe, watch the levels. For the IWM, if Powell pumps the markets, the bigger move is going to be all the way up to 196. If Powell rug pulls the markets, we're going to watch this thing break below 194, all the way down to the 192.5s. For Aapl, if Powell pumps us, you're going to be watching this thing pump all the way up to like 195 plus. If he gives us a rug pull later on, we could see Aapl break all the way down closer to like 190, which could cause the market to drop more. For the QQQ, if Powell pumps us, I mean, I'm going to be watching this thing go up to about at least 382 if we get a monstrous pump thanks to Powell. If not, if the guy smacks the markets down, we're going to see the QQQ come all the way down to at least, in my opinion, around 375 or so. It's going to come all the way down pretty hard, be driven by tech. For Nvda, if Powell did try to pump this thing, I mean, it still has a nice setup. Could this be forming like a large inverse head and shoulders? That's a possibility. So I would be anticipating maybe a small decline on this in the morning, a retest of like 450, then another bounce. That could happen, but just to be safe, I don't want to solely depend on technicals. I know people love to trade based off technicals. They're not always everything because we don't know what Powell's going to say, and that could change everything for even a stock like Nvidia. We also have this gap down here around this like 447 area, so just be very careful with it. If we just ignore the current setup and just look at what's very likely from Powell, if Powell pumps the markets hard, this could help Nvidia actually form this inverse head and shoulders, and this could play out quite nicely. And we could see Nvidia all the way make its way all the way back up to like the 470s and continue to uptrend for the next couple of trading days. If Powell is very, very hawkish and smacks the market down or talks about more rate hikes for the future, because the market's expecting the Fed to pause right now. So don't forget about that. We could see Nvidia get another rug pull and be all the way back down in the 440s, if not a retest of 440. Okay, so it's a possibility. I know it's not what you want to hear, but we have to be careful with Powell. You never know what he's going to say. Microsoft is still, it's a little bit down just right now in the after hours, but we have to wait and see what happens during guidance. I think it's going to start very soon. We will see by tomorrow morning. I do believe it's going to be optimistic for them, so we'll just wait and see on that. For AMD, if we get a pump thanks to Powell, we're going to be watching this thing break above 115, this resistance, fill this imbalance around like this 115 area, and then push all the way up to about 118 again. If we get a rug pull because of Powell, we have this unfilled gap down here, way down at 110, and we could break below 110 into the 109s and 107s, if not lower. So be very careful with Powell. You never know what he's going to say. For Google, it shouldn't necessarily like tank, but it is going to gap up tomorrow most likely. It's already up like 6+% in the after hours. If Powell pumps us, Google could try to hold up around these levels a lot better. If Powell rug pulls the market, we're going to see Google eventually start coming back down, back into like the levels we saw previously, unfortunately. For Amazon, it's the same thing. A Powell pump will take this thing all the way up to at least 131. If not, a rug pull is going to take it all the way down to about 126. For Meta, Meta might actually outperform the market and try to hold up tomorrow because it has earnings coming out very soon. So I'm anticipating it's going to try to push for around 300 or so, try to hold around that level for the majority of the day. Regardless of what Powell says, even Powell could cause it to drop, but it shouldn't drop as hard as the market. It should try to hold up. Then we're going to see a big move depending on how earnings goes. But that's basically it for my video. I want to keep this one very short and simple, very, very easy to follow. It all depends on what these big catalysts are going to be causing. I can't really predict it, guys. Unfortunately, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm always open-minded to anything, but I do want to note that I'm leaning a little bit more bearish. I think it's a little bit more probable we see downside because of how Powell was in the past, and for other factors such as the levels the market is currently at, and the list goes on. Now, I could be wrong. There's a possibility the market could pump because of Powell, even though it is less likely. So always be open minded and do what you have to do. I will talk more about all of this tomorrow. So be on the lookout tomorrow when I release more videos and talk more about the markets. But if anything, I just want to keep this one short, and I just want to thank each and every one of you for listening. All right, have a good one, guys. Market to the moon. Long term is very bright, and peace out.